Sometimes plans change, and after the construction of this new stadium, the development potential of Johnson Aggregates lands has indeed changed. Originally, Johnson Aggregates planned to develop the third phase of their neighborhood development right about here, close to the Johnson Aggregates site. Now, there is a significant additional demand for commercial near the stadium, as well as large lot single-family development near the stadium for coaches and players. Though Johnson Aggregates would love to follow development pressures, they entered into a development agreement with Verde Beach, which is a legally binding agreement between a city and a developer for which the terms of the development are specified. This agreement can include the time frame in which the development can occur, the phasing of the development, specifications for the infrastructure that the developer intends to develop and dedicate to the city, whom is responsible for building parks and when they get built, and assurances that the community will accept infrastructure from the developer. This agreement would also outline the fees that the developer would pay to the municipality for things like inspections and plan review. Johnson Aggregates would love to amend the phasing plan to swap out phases 7 and 3. The city agrees to this under the condition that Johnson Aggregates extends the quay wall from the stadium district into the new neighborhood as a part of phase 3. Johnson Aggregates agrees, and the agreement is executed after a lengthy public hearing process. In today's episode, we're going to build this new phase 3, and at the end, we're going to improve the previous build by incorporating some of your feedback, so stay tuned throughout the entire episode. And if you approve of Verde Beach swapping phases, then hit the like button. And if you wish they would have kept Johnson Aggregates' feet to the fire and not relented, hit the like button for that too. And subscribe and leave a comment. If you could, it helps increase the reach of the video and I would greatly appreciate it. If you have nothing to say, why don't you just drop an emoji letting me know what kind of weather you're having today. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the city of Verde Beach. And we've got a good one today. We're going to build a lovely neighborhood in this new phase 3, what was previously phase 7. So I'm excited to get this going, but I want to refresh your memory so we know what we're looking at. We see phase 7 here. We really ought to rename this. There we go. We've swapped them out. Now, if you want a refresher as to where this district boundary is, we're basically going up here all the way back to here. So it's a pretty significant phase. So one of the reasons that this phase was so big is if we look at our contours, we can see that more or less we're just following the contours. In fact, we're likely not going to go all the way up here. We're going to keep our road back here so that we aren't going onto the hillside. So we're going to respect our topography and make sure that we aren't building in places where it doesn't make sense. So that said, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to build today. So I don't think that we are fully done with the stadium district. In fact, we've built one hotel, and that's not nearly enough. So what we're going to do is extend our stadium district across the highway a little bit. And this will give me an opportunity to respond to John Winchester's suggestion. So basically, John's suggestion was that the train station should be relocated so that folks getting to the train station from the stadium would have to walk through this pedestrian district and smell all the food and all of those sorts of things before they get to this train station to spend some money. That's really difficult to accomplish in this particular build with the layout of everything. But if we add in a little hotel district over here, we could force all of those pedestrians to walk through our pedestrian area before they get to the stadium. And I think that that is totally logical and something that would happen. We just don't have enough hotel space here generally. And I think that that would be something that would be a significant demand for this area. So we're going to build a little hotel and commercial district over here. And then we are going to basically have a main street along this corridor and large lot residential development, spreading things out, making sure that all of the buildings that we're putting up are high value. So we're going to add in some policies to increase the value throughout here. And we are going to make sure that they're spread apart. So I think it's going to be a really fun build. Let's get going. And the place we have to start is with our quay wall. So that was a really important thing to Verde Beach to ensure that this quay wall wraps all the way around to the end of the phase. So we're probably going to get that to about right here. So let's look at our contours, and I want to continue the contours in the way that we had them before. And truthfully, that's not going to work for us. We need to get this underneath the highway. So let's drop this down. And then I use my slope terrain tool just to create a gentle transition between this height here and the new height that we're creating. So we used one of our content creator pack quay walls, and I adore these. We're going to use our road guidelines to snap, and we will just create a nice straight quay wall here. We'll see if we can go underneath, and we can. We got lucky there. I was afraid that we were going to have to actually take the highway down to make this work. I'm going to extend this to here, and the main reason for that is we're going to have to stop for the time being. We're going to have to adjust this. I don't think if we take a look at, yeah, that's not going to work. So to get this to work, we're going to need to back this key wall out just slightly. Height of realism. The key wall's not working for you, just redo it. Don't worry about it. We're not going to worry. We're not going to worry. Now we find our line right here with our curve tool. Make our connection. It looks backwards, but it won't be when we fix it up. Looking absolutely wonderful. And then we will level our terrain out and just grab that height right down here. All right, so we've got to finish up, and we are going to try to get this thing. Actually, I think that we should go just a bit beyond. And I'm sure that Johnson Aggregates would be so generous. They love the city so much that they're going to build the key wall longer than they need to. And the city's lost all their leverage because they could have requested this. But I won't tell anyone if you don't. We don't want to cul-de-sac this. We've got this dirt road here. Remember, this is just a planning road. So the city is going to require, as a part of this development agreement, to allow the development to occur here, they're going to require that this road is extended all the way up. Now, this is a road with a bike lane, and we're going to continue that bike lane up here. Now, we've got a couple of things that we need to do here. First of all, this connection is now broken. Let's give this another shot. Much better. And we're going to do something nice along here as well. This would be a park space of some kind. So we will reserve this as public park space. Okay, so now we're looking at our terrain. It's totally flat. Our biggest concern now is going to be, let's turn all of our snap twos on. We're going to want to leave adequate separation between this hotel district and everything around it. And this isn't going to be the prettiest district, but it is going to be the most functional. We're going to work with what we have and try to make lemonade out of some lemons, because this is not a very nice parcel. And that's it. That's our district. There's not going to be a lot to it here. So a couple of things that we are going to consider. I added all of these tree-lined streets because we are not going to allow a whole bunch of parking through here. What we are going to do is have a lot. And the lot, actually, we're going to need to straighten this out so we can have the lot along the highway. The whole idea is going to be to entice people to stay at these hotels because you can park here and walk across to get over to the game. So there would be cheap parking here and or free, and you'd be able to stay at the hotel. There we go. So now we can add in some of our parking spaces. Now, I saw a number of comments asking about these parking spaces. If you look at my Steam Workshop, this is just an asset that I made in the asset editor. So we're going to add those right here. And as we're developing this further, I do think that it's about time that we start to add in some sound walls. So we are going to do that. It will make it harder to see these hotels. You can imagine that they would have some pretty significant signage poking up over so that you could see it over the sound walls. There we go. Now, before we get going, I'm just going to put the water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. And I finished the water pipes underneath this road as well because that would be a requirement. If they're building this road as a part of this phase, you've got to get the utilities in as well. You know, they certainly could decide to completely finish the road, then dig it up at time of construction of these neighborhoods. But they are confident enough that the demand is there to build this entire area out that they are just going to take care of it all right now. So what we're going to do is create a little pedestrian connection across here. I wonder if we can add that right over the top of this sign right here. I inadvertently made that a bike connection. Now this bugs me. I wish that this wasn't just blobbing into this, but I don't think that there's much I can do about that. So we'll just need to live and let live there. Now here, we're going to turn this around. Actually, we could send this straight down and make our connection right there. Not the most beautiful location for it, but I think it's going to work quite well. There we go. There we go. I like that. That is a nice connection. Feeling very, very good about this. So now let's talk about our zoning back here. We're not going to do 100% hotels back here. We're going to have a little bit of leisure as well. and some other sorts of commercial. We've got to mix it up just a little bit. So we're going to take our phase 3 designation away, and because we're going to have a lot of smaller districts over here, kind of like we did over here. So for our hotels, we will absolutely take this area and the area along train tracks and turn this into a little hotel district. So there we go, tourism specialization right there. But I thought it might be nice to mix it up a little bit in the other parts of this district as well. So we're going to have a small district right here to buffer the noise. I want to have an organic and local produce district. So imagine being able to go to the farmer's market or get some clean local food. And then we'll have a leisure district if it allow us. It's going to fight me. It's going to fight me hard. I'll extend this down here. So now I will come through here. We're going to make this one Summit Hills Organic and Local. And then we are going to take our leisure specialization and apply that to Madison Hills. So that is going to be a good fix in my opinion. So the one thing I wasn't able to look at, you can kind of see here, it's a little bit wonky. That's okay. We will live with it. And part of the reason we'll live with it is I don't think we have any options. So sometimes you've got to do what you don't want to do. So we do have, I did zone this, which is kind of a change of plans, but we are going to preserve this area right here. So we don't have another road running down here. Now let's zone this in. And now I want to add in some of those pedestrian connections I was talking about. So here we're going to come down from that ped crossing. Just extend this down, same thing here, right in the center of the two of these. And then let's work in some plaza spaces. I'm going to pause this for just a moment as we give this some thought. I'd like to use the Plazas and Promenades DLC parks because I think that they are unique and a little bit nicer looking. And this is potentially where we could work something in like a food truck plaza that would be really unique and special to this area that isn't anywhere else. And I'm adding that right here. So you could turn into this district and you'd have these options here. It'd be a really unique feature for this particular area. And then we are going to add in some sort of large fountain plaza down here. I want to center this and really frame this area out. Now we're going to need to do a couple of things to make this look even a little bit reasonable. And that'll just be something fun that we have to do. Let's see if we have a smaller park as well that we can work in. Add one of these, and the nice thing about that is then it allows us to have a pedestrian connection. It gives us the opportunity. It doesn't allow us. We're allowed to do whatever we want, but it gives us the opportunity to extend this through, this pedestrian connection through, and really pedestrianize this space. There we go. I like that. I think that having little cut throughs like that, they just make a place feel special. Now let's let this zone out, although we are going to need to make sure our power jumps. So I'm going to add in an earthquake sensor and that'll do the trick. Now let's watch this place fill in. Okay, and as this fills in, I'm starting to realize that we have lost out on an opportunity potentially if I let this continue to fill in, and that is the opportunity to add in a unique building. And I almost added in this building in the last one. So we've got this sea and sky scraper, and I would like to add this through here. I think it's just something that would be an interesting amenity in this area, and we're going to use eminent domain to make it happen. That little node of density that's been created here, that is what we want to do. So now from this location, if we pop through here and we go into this building, you can see downtown Verde Beach perfectly from the penthouse of this location. You also have a great view of the stadium. You can see way back there the volcano. You have a view of basically everything in Verde Beach from this location. The farm, absolutely stunning. This would be a great place to visit, and I think that it would be a valuable amenity. And because of the suburban character of this area, I know I saw some questions about that. Why would you build a stadium in such a suburban area? Truthfully, a lot of stadiums, for better or for worse, are being built in suburban areas right now. I think some of the most successful ones are built in urban areas, but it is a significantly more challenging proposition, particularly if the area has already redeveloped and become a more desirable place. Then that acquiring the amount of property you need to build a sports complex can be really challenging. So where you see them happening, it's generally in areas that have lots of warehousing or there's just lots of trouble already. And then they're built as part of a revitalization process. I think of Comerica Park and Ford Field in downtown Detroit, Michigan, which were actually constructed as a result of the downtown Detroit revitalization plan. When Coors Field was built in Denver, it was built there because lower downtown is not what it is today. There were a lot of vacant parcels and a lot of parking lots. Building that same stadium today, boy oh boy would it be hard. That said, let's go ahead and make a few improvements around here. And the improvements that I want to make, I want to add in some pedestrian connections from our quay wall so that pedestrians wouldn't have to go and cross this busy road. This would be an arterial road. Granted, there are a lot of bikes, even getting past the bikers. We don't want to have to do that. So we're going to add a pedestrian connection back here so you can get to the quay wall if you wanted to. You can already see all of the pedestrian activity. Like John mentioned, what we're doing is all of these patrons that are staying here at these hotels, when they go across to get to their game, they are forced to walk through this pedestrian district now. They smell all the food, they see the tasty beverages, and they decide they want to grab one and stop. I think that this is an excellent location for this, even if it is a whole bunch of density. Obviously, in my ideal world, we wouldn't have all of this crazy density and height. I'd have probably just this one, but that's not the way this DLC works. The After Dark DLC gives you one density level, and we could play whack-a-mole to try to get our smaller hotels, but I think at a certain point, you just have to accept the game as it is and use your imagination a bit and be happy with what you have. So that's what we're going to do. All right, let's move on to the second half of this neighborhood. I want to focus on the layout and bare bones. We'll get to the decorating at the end. So we'll look at our contours. Are they defining this? Kind of defining this. So we're going to use our dirt roads to begin our layout, and then we will figure everything else out after the fact. So I want to define those roads right now that are going to be the edge of our development. Now I mentioned the large lots. We're going to have that. This is a cul-de-sac. I hate this, but we're going to go for it. And we'll likely have some connections from the neighborhood down to the quay wall so they could take a nice walk along the water. And you got to remember who this neighborhood is really being built for. It's being built for coaches. It's being built for the athletes. So we are going to ensure that we've got plenty of connections over to our stadium district. Now we do need a primary through movement to get up to our new neighborhood over there. So we're going to stub this road in. This is where you can kind of see some odd stuff happening. And you might have seen this if you've been to a neighborhood that's building out where it just kind of ends and you go, what was the point of that? I don't understand. This is that point. It's stubbed in for future development. Before I connect this up, again, we want to make sure that we're far enough back from the train tracks. So we're going to go again and leave about a 2-unit gap in between. And then I want this to connect up nicely. So we're going to force them to have a 4-way junction here. I'm sure that the developer would love for it to come in here, but now we have more stops, and that's more conflict points and more danger for pedestrians and drivers alike. So we're going to avoid that. And then we'll come through here, and I'm just going to make a nice connection here. Now for this, we've got some elevation change here, but I think that the connectivity through here would be very valuable and would help us open up some additional land for development. So we'll bring in some roads, some real funky roads, the types of roads that make you think, who planned this and why? Well, who planned this? A developer. And why? To maximize their saleable lots. So now here's a location where the developer would seek, again, that offset. And I think here we're maybe a little bit more okay with it. And the reason for that is no one's using this as a through street. And I mean, if they are, it's a cut through, not a huge deal. We're going to treat this as our main street where we have all of our commercial shops. So we are going to have a nice tight main street pattern through here. There we go. Now, to ensure that I have my maximum development density, we're going to add some fencing through here to ensure that we get the largest lots we can get. And we're going to go for some fairly thick fencing because I think that privacy is going to be of the utmost importance in this area. Actually, what we'll do is we'll upgrade some of these roads. Okay, and it's unfortunate we ended up with 3U here, but I think we could still make it work. Just because a lot isn't deep doesn't mean it can't be wide. So there are many ways to accomplish our goals here. So over here, we're going to, again, let's get our roads upgraded. These aren't the final upgrades here. That said, we are going to have the ability to have cafe seating in our little downtown area, which is why we are upgrading this to have the wide sidewalks. And then as we get into the neighborhoods, we are going to go for a mixture of the 2-lane roads and then some of our tree-lined streets. All of these. So in reality, you can have trees and parking at the same time. I'm sure you've seen it. So we're going to go for that. But even at that, homes with large lots like this, they routinely have much more parking than they need on the lot itself. So this is something that I know that I've talked about in my day job, saying that we really need to tie the parking that you see on a street to the amount of parking that is being provided at the house itself. Because you'll see that there are these crazy planning requirements in terms of the amount of parking that is necessary at a particular house. So in some cases, you'll see that you need to have a parking space, an off-street parking space for a single-family residential home, one per bedroom. So if you have a 3-bedroom house, you need 3 off-street parking stalls. That's 2 garage stalls and 1 spot in your driveway. And in many cases, how do you do that really? You end up with 4. In some cases, you'll have a house with a 3-car garage and 6 parking spaces off-street, plus all the on-street parking. And you better believe that people are still going to debate you about removing that parking in front of their house. So it's better to get it built up front the way you want it. So I love the idea of building a whole bunch of streets like this that don't have parking. The developer would very likely fight you. In fact, I've been fought by a developer over that very same situation. It's not a fun conversation to have, but I understand their concern. Their concern is the viability of the development. My concern is the way the community looks and functions after the developer leaves, which they all do. They don't stay in the neighborhood forever. They eventually leave. So that is a different set of concerns. All right, so back through here, we're going to have a little bit of a cul-de-sac back here. Now, we will make some pedestrian connections through here, but I think that is about all that we do. And back here, we're going to do the exact same thing. We'll make that cul-de-sac and we'll have a pedestrian connection through here. It's not ideal to force some of these roadway connections to be as disconnected as they are. Like this would be a great connection to have through here with a road, especially when you think if you're a FedEx driver, you have to drive all the way around. You don't have the luxury of being able to hop on this. And that means that every time someone orders a package from Amazon, we're adding on miles traveled through this neighborhood. And over time, that really adds up. But we're going to accept this as it is. All right. So now I want to add a few more pedestrian connections through here. This one, we just wind it up the hill a little ways. And I'm going to try to fix this. One of the things that's nice about these pedestrian facilities is that you have the ability to terraform them after the fact, which makes it really easy to fix them. So there we go. That's a much nicer connection. We got some steep stuff going on here. That's okay. We'll fix that down the line when we develop this neighborhood. Maybe we'll just do a little bit. And then through here, the only other pedestrian connection that I want to add through is one straight through these blocks. I think that this would be a very valuable connection because the block lengths here are honestly just really extreme. The other thing that I could see happening here is this becoming some sort of park space. So I think that we will add in some sort of park type amenity in all of these spaces where you have these pedestrian connections coming through. So there we go. We're looking good. So let's start thinking about those park spaces. Now, I think in an ideal world, I would just go ahead and grab the climbing frame and just place it right here. And of course, we don't live in that ideal world. So what I'm going to have to do is get a bit creative here. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to add in a small gate here. And then we're going to have crazy park times. And what we're going to do is just extend this park through. Now, I can slice and dice this thing however I want to. So we are just going to extend it all throughout this area and then cut it into little pieces. And that looks absolutely ridiculous, and it is, but it's going to do the trick for us. Manor City Park, we're going to just give it no name and take the ticket price down to nothing. Let's turn all of this nonsense off, and we're just going to add back our connection. Now, the whole reason why we've done this little bit of madness is that now we can add in lots of little climbing frames. Now, granted, we've still got to have our district just right. But that's okay. We can add in some of our gazebos now. And you better believe, because of what this neighborhood is, we are going to add in lots of amenities. And now I'm even going to go into our nature reserves. And we're going to add in some amenities from there as well. And really try to think about this. So we can add things here as well. I wonder, for our city park, we have these piers. Oh, that looks funky. I'm wondering though, if we extend this over, if that would be something that we could work into this area. You know, that's weird, but I'm kind of good with it. I'm kind of good with it. And then let's make sure we have a connection through here. Oh yeah, feeling very good about that. So just the small things that you're able to do when you have park spaces in vanilla. Obviously, if you were doing this in a modded build, it's not quite as much of a concern, but I think that this is something that in vanilla, if you have the opportunity, boy, can it really elevate your little community. And I'm curious to see what this has done to our land value. Nothing yet, but it will certainly improve it. We do have this blue here, and I don't know that we would have had this blue without all of these park amenities through here. Let's go ahead and add in a district over this entire area. Now we're going to need a name for this district. So if you've got a good one, please drop it in the comments right now and we'll take a look. And whichever one has the very most likes, as long as it's not obscene, we're going to go for it. Oh, but you know what is obscene? I have, by creating this district, inadvertently deleted a portion of this. All right, that should fix it. Not ideal. All right, and the reason I wanted to to add a name over Linden Square, I don't know if we can change that. I love that. So maybe we're gonna go with it. And if that's the case, it's Johnson Street, but it really should be Linden Street. So that's kind of funny. Linden Johnson Street. We'll add a Linden right here. Actually, wow, there's lots of problems here with our street naming. We've got Gray Street turning into Gray Street. Ooh, that is ugly. That is ugly. We're going to fix that. And I think that that's a bit more reasonable. Now we don't have two crossings of Gray Street. Now we have Gray coming here, turning into Washington Street. And I could see this being Washington Place or something, or Washington Circle, Washington Crescent, Washington Street. We'll just leave it. I think we need to have a live stream one of these days and go through and do a bunch of naming of things. So there we go. Now, again, the reason we added this whole district right here is so that we could add some policies specific to this area. Now, what I'm going to add here, you might be thinking I'm going to add mid-century modern. We're not going to do that. We're going to add mid-century modern in phase 5. I think that's going to be a good fit up here. But right here, I want to have some policies that I think are going to make this a good place. So we're going to make high-tech housing through here. And then we'll make this a VIP area. So all of the shelters in this area are for these folks. Make them feel really special. Fast recovery. We're going to really make sure that this feels like an exclusive area. So we are going to need to remember to build our shelter. We got that policy on here, so we should definitely take advantage of it. Parks and maintenance boost. Absolutely. And we're in a good place. So let's start building. And just so I don't forget, we are going to build our little shelter back here. And we'll add that back in the neighborhood. So there we go. Now, let's get our water pipes underneath our roads so we don't forget about them. And then we'll begin zoning. Oh, and looking at this makes me think, you know, we have CSL map view to be able to view our roads, I want CSL map view to add in a water pipes view, because I would absolutely take advantage of that. I think it would be awesome. So if the developer of that, or if someone else wants to develop a mod for water pipes, I will tell you I'm all over that. I'm all about that. All right, so through here, our little commercial center. Not much to it. This is just where you go to shop. And we're going to pause this for a moment because we need to think about some other city serving uses in this area. And let's grab, first and foremost, police and fire protection. Now, this is something that was mentioned for our stadium district that wasn't added. So we're going to go with some higher capacity buildings through here so that we can serve not just this neighborhood, but all of this tourism stuff that we've built over here. And we're going to add that as close to this area as we can. So right here on Johnson Street, we're going to add in high capacity police and fire protection. Oh, and that's just so large. I really, really dislike how large this is. I vehemently dislike how large this is. So we're just going to go with a normal. No, they don't look nice together. So I feel like I'm trapped. We're going to go with the large one anyway. And we're going to do the same thing. No. We're not going to do it. You're not the boss of me building. We'll just have one modern looking police department, and then we're going to go with some rationally sized buildings for everything else. We're going to turn these to the side. I inadvertently faced that towards the main road. We don't want to do that. We don't want to load right onto Johnson Street. We'll load onto the side street, Cedric Street. And then we are going to add in some of our other uses that are important back here as well. Now in this area, I would assume that for our schools, we have some community schools potentially. So we will add those in some fairly prominent locations. And I think Miller Street is about as prominent as you can get anyway through here. And this is a great location because we have that park behind us. Now, we aren't respecting the topography exactly, but that, I mean, not at all. So that is the one, and maybe Vermont Street would be a little bit better. A little bit, not a ton better, but we'll go with it. And then I want to also add in one of our Institutes of Creative Arts. This is the Creative High Schools. And this one, we will again add on to Vermont Street. And again, topography, not great for it. Not great for it. So we're going to need to do something to make this work. So we will pre-grade this area out. We're going to add in some room for parking behind the school. And again, we're going to need to spread this out further. Oh my goodness, I felt like that was never going to happen. No, but it did. We've got it. So we're going to be totally happy with that. Now, I wanted to add that because we are going to add in our sports hall and gymnasium over here as well. Remember, this is a neighborhood that is really focused on sports, and the athletes are just going to expect that whatever schools are in this area have really high quality athletics. So we're going to continue to just carve into this hillside to add in sports back here. More sports. So there we go with a pool. We're going to also add in tennis courts and basketball. And we are telling the topography to respect us today. We're not taking any guff. We are showing it what we think of it right now. And that is, so we've got goals, and we can't monkey around with the topography today. Sometimes the land would be so valuable flattened, you do what you got to do. And remember, this is a private school too. This isn't the public school system that is deciding to flatten the ground to build a whole bunch of athletic facilities. Don't put it past the public school though either, because there are definitely PTOs that are willing to do what it takes to make sure that athletics has a place at the school. There we go. So we've created that nice little bowl here. We've got a little athletic campus down here. And we'll extend our road out through here. And again, this road is going to extend into our new neighborhood at some point. That or Vermont, one of the two. So Highland or Vermont, one of the two that will extend up here. Maybe, or Miller rather. And I think it actually could end up being Miller because the trajectory up there is a little bit easier. You can already even see that there's that indentation that would just lend to this being extended up there. So we will have to see. Now that we've got all of that, I think that we should add a couple of basketball courts and the like through here. And we also need to add in some death care and health care in this area as well. So along this this rail facility, which is already going to be a challenging spot for housing, we are going to add in a number of parks back here. And I hadn't intended on building a riding stable back here. I'm wondering what this does to our terrain, because this is absolutely the kind of thing. Woo! Whoo! Yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, that would be nice. We're gonna get this somewhere through here, but that's not the spot. All right, we are going to try to. Yeah, we'll need to do something better to get another location for that. Definitely not in this area. And then we just need some smaller traditional parks, maybe some parks with trees, a large playground. Just really overdoing it on the parks, because I think that would be an expectation in this area. Now, the challenging thing, Editor Phil here, and I think the challenging thing is watching this, knowing that I'm not going to place a dog park. We've got to fix that. I can't believe I made this mistake. This puts the city in a bind, because the city is taking on all of this park space after the developer builds it. And if there are other places where it's more needed, those conversations that you have with residents are definitely difficult. So through here, again, crematorium, we'll add that back here. Death care is taken care of. We need some health care. And we'll even add things like this yoga garden, which I think would be really interesting. And then from there, I think we just need to finish up our zoning. So we will, again, convert some of this stuff along the main drag to be commercial. And then we'll stop that right about there. And now for the residential, we are going to be very deliberate with this. We want to leave at least one tile in between all of these houses to give separation. We want them to be large lots, nothing less than a 3x3 for certain. So when we have stuff like this, we're going to need to make some choices. Maybe 2x4 is okay, but certainly not a 2x3 or 2x2. Okay, so I've added in most of this side, and what you can see is that I've tried to leave 2 units of separation in between all of the homes. So this will ensure that we have some larger lots. And what I want to do now is add some fencing between some of these lots to really show that these lots are large. Okay, and with that, we have actively parcelized. I don't know, that's not a word. We've divided this entire area into parcels. And you can see when you don't jam the houses in like you don't really get that many lots. So that said, these lots would all be very expensive, regardless of what the housing type is like. I'm just curious. What is our land value looking like? We could see it's already jumping up. It's already jumping up. Young Linden Square, $54 per square meter. That's actually not too bad for a brand new neighborhood that isn't fully built out. That said, we are going to let this thing build out, and hopefully we see this tower not burn down. Okay, and now that things have filled in, I think we need to add in a bit of detail through here. So let's zoom on in and we'll see what we can do. And truthfully, I'm really not thrilled with the number of old palm trees through here. So I think I'm going to spend just a moment and we'll get rid of all of those, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I got rid of all of those old trees, and there's a couple of rocks and things like that, but we can deal with that. Now I just want to go through and we're going to place this landscaping, and after that I want to think about the street trees. Okay, so I feel pretty good about the trees through here. What I don't feel so comfortable about right now are the trees that are lining the streets, and then there are a couple of other things where we've just got to pay a little bit more attention. So right here, for instance, we're using the wrong road. So we're going to use a road that has a grassy terrace so people aren't parking on the road itself. They have to park in the parking lot. And then our trees on the side of the road. So I think we're going to go and use something that feels very, very Verde Beach. So we'll go with date palms, pretty heavily through here. I think that's going to make it feel upscale. There we go. Now the unfortunate thing, again, because we have our bike lanes here, which I absolutely want to keep, because we have our bike lanes, we do not get to have trees. So I think I'm going to try to sneak some in. You can always sneak them in, or sometimes, not always, if you just are really patient. So let's be patient. Let's try to...
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. We're fine here. It's okay. The bigger concern is some of these steep cliffs. I'm going to try to cover these up as best I can. Now, these are our punishment marks for not respecting your topography. But sometimes you're able to just kind of come through and pull it down or up. Now, basically what I'm doing here is the fences have made lot lines, and generally you'd expect the lot to be mostly flat. So that's why I'm pulling these up. Now, the thing here, like this house, I think that this house maybe should have been smaller, but this is supposed to be a neighborhood that's a little bit more upscale, so we're taking some liberties there. Okay, now one thing I wanted to do, we decorated a bit over here from aerial view, but I think what we need to do is actually do a little bit more. So I want to add in a pretty significant fence all the way along here. So we're just using our zoo fencing because it really helps us. I think they look a little bit more like sound barriers or something of that nature, and that is the appearance that we're going for. Okay, and now I wanted there to be a little bit more along the waterfront. So we are going to add in, I wanted to have some of these lovely California palms through here. We haven't found a location for them yet, but we have one, and that is right along here. I think we're also going to need a fence off in between this parking lot and the ramp. That would be a problem. So let's add in some of these California palms. Okay, so I forgot one thing, and that is over here. When I initially placed this, I said I was going to do something to make this look better. And now the more I look at this, the more I realize there's nothing that I can do short of just densely landscaping around here and trying to make it look purposeful, because it's certainly not. So all right, and the last thing I want to do over here is focus on adding our rock wall so we have some continuity between the sides, because now you would have the potential of being on both sides of this. And I said I was done, but I'm only almost done. We're going to add in some landscaping straight down the center of the highway too, so that as soon as you enter this place, it feels special. Whew, and that was some decorating. And with that, I think what we have to do is zoom into this movie theater. Oh, that has to be historic. That is beautiful. Chirpzilla, paradoxal perspective, colossal cranium, and Shroomville. Okay, we will make that historical because that is awesome. It's a really nice gateway into our downtown, which makes me want to zoom in and have a brief city tour. Oh, that was a nice city tour, and I feel like we're making some good progress. There's one more thing I want to take a look at before we start to focus on some of our fixes, and that is the value of this area. And you're starting to see it creep up. Obviously, it's not going to be nearly as valuable as the sports complex with everything happening over there. When we take a look at this, 60's not bad, and this will continue to improve over time as things level up. So with that, we got to move on to some of our fixes. And there was one fix that I really was excited about, and that's from Gavin Power, who suggested a name for the team. The team name should be the Verde Beach Meteorites. So we're going to rename this the Meteorites. We'll make this the crater, and we will name the team the Verde Beach Meteorites. Perfect. And actually, it's funny. It already has a name, Verde Beach FC. There's nothing I can do to change that. So either way, I like that. And that is a great name and a great suggestion, Gavin. I appreciate you. Next was a comment from Luke, who suggested that we have this lovely train line, which 105 people using it, not too bad. We need to add an additional stop to this. So that would allow people to get on somewhere other than downtown to interface with the service. And I completely agree, and that was a bit of an oversight on my behalf. So let's go ahead and we're going to go into our transport menu, look at our train lines, and we'll turn on only the stadium line. Now, the reason I want to turn that on is I believe that what Luke was insinuating is that maybe we add a stop over in Myrtle Park. That said, I think that there are a few other stops. We've got one here in Station Heights, and I think there could be a lot of value. So this one is a park and ride. So there's a lot right in front of it. There's also a bypass station that could be a good spot. And then the other one is in the club district, same station. That said, I think this station here is just a little bit too close to warrant that stop. And there's no parking here, which makes it a challenging spot. So because of that, we're going to add the stop right here. So this is a nice midpoint. We'll add the stop real quick. So kind of weird, it was disappeared because I didn't hit the A for the automatic info views, but we've got that in there now. So we've got our stops here. And if we take a look at the location, this is right by Old Verde Beach. And I like that location. We've got direct access to the Lewis Garden City. So I think that this is a good location to add that extra stop. I am curious, what does this do to the line? So I'm going to take a look at this line. And right now we've got 145 people using this a week. Let's speed this up and let it go for a couple of minutes. And maybe the better way of looking at this is actually to take a look at the line itself. And so many people are queuing up in those locations. So right here, this stop is the stadium itself. 33 folks there. And then we've got this additional line, and there's only one person queued up there. That said, I do think it's going to improve over time, too. So we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But I think that was a great suggestion, and I appreciate the idea, Luke. That was a good one. The next suggestion, it's really kind of a set of suggestions that we've got to cover. So I need to take this back to day. So let's take a look at the daytime. Okay, so we're back to daytime. And there are two suggestions that I think are related. First of all, you see all of these bikers looping around doing all this craziness over here. And a lot of people didn't like that. And I really liked the idea that Dashi had, which was that rather than adding this connection here, we go and add a connection underneath the train tracks. Now you might look at that and go, oh, wow, that's going to be really challenging. And it's not. It's actually not going to be challenging. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. But this is going to come in hand with the number one suggestion, which was fix the connection from this lovely European bridge into the stadium district. In fact, in the video, there were a number of pedestrians walking that were trying to get to the stadium, and they had to turn around because of the upgrade here of this to a highway. So we've got this little gap here, a couple hundred feet, where there are no pedestrian facilities, and as a result, no one walks here. So let's make that one upgrade real quick. So there we go. We've just extended this. So now there is a sidewalk to get over here. It still prevents people from walking. And the whole reason that I wanted this here, it was to prevent people from walking and making a fairly dangerous crossing of this arterial right here. That is not something that we're super interested in, but also really mess up our traffic flow here. So just trying to be mindful of that. All of that said, we've got to make a couple more changes. So that was a suggestion that Wearlaga, Hype Radio Official, and probably about 50 more of you made, and it was a great one. I can't believe I missed that. So thank you so much for pointing that out. Next one is that bike bridge. So let's take a look at our contours here. And you might wonder, how are we going to do this? I think that there's an easy solution. So let's go ahead and find a contour that we want to go underneath this bridge with. So we're going to slow this down so it's easy to work with our terrain. And I think maybe this contour here, spread this out underneath here. And you'll notice something. The bridge actually goes a bit further than it appears. So look at this. If I spread that, now I've got a location underneath the bridge where I can run that bike path. And you might think, oh my goodness, that's way too low. Don't worry about it because it's a bike path. We can terraform it after we place it. So that's what we're going to do. So let's add in our bike facility. And then I'll turn angle on and we'll send this straight up. Oh, and look at how mad it is about what we're doing. It's telling me no. And you might think that that would create problems down the line for us. It will not. There we go. Oh boy. And look at that. Straight down. What are you going to do? Now we'll send this over here on up and have a nice connection in. Now this will allow us to delete this bunch of crazy nonsense. And that was the mulligan that so many people requested. Get rid of this. It's unsafe. If you're going to have this, make a connection straight across, but we don't need to have this. We don't need this. It's not necessary. And now we have made this connection down here. Obviously, we've got a couple of issues. So let's see if we can make this a bit more rational and reasonable. And let's remove those trees so we can take a look at what we're looking at. So it's about 15 meters straight down. So you're going to get some big calves if you're into this. And it's going to be a little bit of a perilous journey for you. But, you know, if you are bold enough, you can bike to the stadium. So the nice thing is here we are. We can make these changes and just work our terrain. Now, these are pedestrians. These are bikers. These are not very tall. So we can grab terrain heights that work for us and keep bringing it up to a point where you might think, holy cow, it would never let me do this with a road. But it's not a road. So we can do whatever we want. So it's letting me get real wild with it. Now we're going to go into our shift terrain and I'm going to take this to 2. Now I can just tap it down. Oh, and there's a biker right there showing me how it's done. And that's really helpful because now I can see that I could probably go higher than I was imagining. And all of that's good for me because I want the minimum difference in height here that I can get on this side. And that's because I've got this really difficult slope to work with. So over here, I'm going to again pop this up. So I have this left mouse click, tap, 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 tap. And that's probably where I can get. That's probably as best as I can do. But that's pretty darn good. So I'm going to grab my top height up here and then slope down. Yeah, that stinks. You're going to get some calves. You're going to get some really muscular, powerful calves. But you know what? That is totally doable. Totally doable. And now we can clean some of this up and make it look nice and pretty. So this is doable in vanilla. You don't need to have a bunch of mods to make this possible. We'll resume this again so we can check this out and get a real feel for the way that this looks. Ah, there we are. Get some landscaping in place and we see our first few bikers coming up here. We're going to need to upgrade this road now, but it's nice to see that we've got some utilization already. And this is a much safer journey. We're prioritizing the cyclists in the way that they deserve to be prioritized. So we shouldn't just be thinking about cars. We need to think about bikes as well. And I think that we've done a good job of that here. Now, the one thing that's a bit of a challenge, you're starting to see traffic back up here. And I think that that's pretty predictable because of the number of lanes that we have here. And we're probably never going to fix that. And here's the thing. It's a stadium district. If you're going to drive past the stadium to try to do normal things, you're going to probably expect that it's going to be a little bit backed up and congested. Sometimes you get congested in a city and it's okay. It's okay. And this is one of those spaces where I'm going to be totally fine with it. So now we have this lovely bicycle connection all the way through here. I'd love to convert this to not be a bicycle connection. We actually might need it. And right here's where we can give ourselves a little bit of extra capacity so we have turning lanes, and that will benefit us pretty tremendously, I think. So we're definitely going to keep that there. And the other thing that would help us is to signalize this. So we will add in a traffic signal here. And now we'll at least have some priority on this road sometimes so that folks will be able to get across here. I'd love to have a signal here at this location as well. Probably not great, if we're being completely honest with you. And then we've got one more fix, and that comes from Spinebreaker 84. And they pointed out that this is not a great location if you need to man the junction at all. So we are going to absolutely modify this. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to move over this water pumping station. And then we're going to pause this for just a moment because we're going to totally change our tracks. So again, we're going to come through here. We'll grab our high-speed rail viaduct. And basically, we want that junction to occur anywhere that's not the water. Because the water is a bad place to have that kind of junction. So again, that means that we're playing a little bit with trying to get these to line up nicely. But I think that we've got enough patience and experience now that we can make this happen. So I believe that that is more in line with what they were thinking. And truthfully, that looks like a really nice junction. So I'm here for it. This was a lot of infrastructure built for this, so we want to get it right. So let's take a look at that. Our passenger volume has gone up. I want to take one more look at this to see what has happened. And it looks like the number of passengers on this line generally has gone up. Now, I don't know if that is because of this new stop here. It seems empty here, but we're getting a lot of people at the game itself and at the end of the line. So the nice thing about the extra stop is we could just see, with this capacity that we have for the stadium line, folks from downtown being able to take advantage of this new line and have a nice trip to Old Verde Beach or into the Lewis Garden City. And that's not a bad thing to have a particular line that you create have double duty. So that's efficient use of your city's resources and capital improvements and operating costs. So I think that that's a totally fine thing to do. With this, I think that we've made some really great improvements today. It looks like we've totally cleared the queue here. So from a traffic standpoint, we're doing better. I do want to take a look. We'll just make sure that all of our new connections are working appropriately. We've got pedestrians and cyclists here. We've got pedestrians and cyclists here. Things are looking good. Things are looking really good. And I am quite pleased. And when we take a look at the new part of the city, we've got a pretty unique little neighborhood. Let's do one last check to see where we're at with our values. 60 still, but things are improving. Now we've moved past the second average zoning level and we're moving into the third. You see that things are continuing to improve. And as we develop this area out, things will only continue to look up. And I hope that you've enjoyed this episode because I've really enjoyed doing it. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me. It is my privilege to be able to bring these to you. Can't wait to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.